It's good. I mean, we don't really do anything.
Big Dean.
Yeah.
How are you doing, sir?
Awesome.
Welcome, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Awesome.
Is everybody excited?
Yes.
Awesome. Love it. Thanks for being here. I know you guys' time is valuable, and I promise at the end of this presentation today, you will learn something. What was that? Wow. Wow, did I just do that? It's a good thing to be doing, right? Because your time is valuable. So I appreciate you being here. I really, truly do. So before we get started in today, we got a gentleman that's returned to the home plate with our Inspiro and Financial Group. And the nice thing about Inspiro is they're from origination to Wall Street. May not mean anything to some of you, but it is a big, big deal. So with that being said, Phil, why don't you come on up?
I paid him a lot of money to say stuff like that. I wanted to just give you guys a brief little tip on point leveraging. I worked here for 3 years and transferred to a different office with my former employer. And one of the main reasons I wanted to come back is simply I couldn't believe the interest rates and the low fees that Inspiro offered versus what most of the companies out in the market today are offering. So with that being said, let me give you a quick little scenario. So let's say you had a client that wanted to write an offer, $350,000, plain vanilla FHA 30-year fixed, and they had their money for their down payment, but they needed the seller to chip in for the closing costs. So, no big deal, right? Until you call up and tell them you're sending an offer over and you find out there's multiple offers. So, does that become a big deal now? Yeah, because it certainly lessens the strength of your offer. So, that's where we can come in. So, I went and I still have access to my old company. I went in and priced their 30-year fixed FHA today, and it was priced at 3.875%. And Spiro right now is pricing at 3.375%. Okay, so that's a half point right there. So what if we took your client and instead of giving them that 3.375, we gave them 3.625? And by doing that, their payment's going up $47 a month, but we can now give them $3,600 to offset all of their hard costs for the loan. You no longer have to ask for that in your offer, which obviously strengthens that offer. And everyone's like, yeah, but they're going to be paying $47 more a month. Well, that's true, but it's going to take a little over 6 years before that extra $47 a month would even get to a break-even point for the costs that we gave them. And most people aren't going to stay in the same loan 6.5 years anyway. And it's still $47 less a month at the higher rate than what they would be getting with my former lender, and they're not getting any credit for it. So there's all kinds of ways that we can structure this. Your clients' needs and what their goals are, the time frame they're going to live there. All these things can play into figuring out the best way to structure this for your clients. So if you find yourself in that kind of situation, we'd love to have you come down and talk to us about it. And I'm glad to be back. I look forward to working with you guys. Thanks for your time.
Awesome. I've been working with this guy for 18 years. I'm so happy he's back because this point leveraging is something we actually put together about 18 years ago and have been using to separate us from other people. When you can go in and you can structure a market like that, last I checked, 3.875 was higher than 3.675, even with the points being paid. So it really sets you apart. This guy understands it intimately. He's the one that walked that journey with me. We will be doing a class on this. So, or maybe even a base camp later on. Some other things today. We've got Summit next week. Make sure you're attending that. Summits are always a great place to be and kind of get uplifted, see what the company's doing, see what production's doing, see overall where the market's at. Also today, Toastmasters. If you're not in Toastmasters, this is something that can actually elevate who you are and your speaking capabilities. It's something everybody who struggles with being in front of somebody should be taking part in that. Even as much as I've done it over the years, I still get rattled. If I'm in front of like 3,000 people and my mind goes gaga, it's a problem. That's fear. The number one thing in people's fear is public speaking. I think it's crazy, but get used to it. Come in. It's a lot more fun once you're in doing it. Last week was crazy, thanks to a couple people making us look like fools, but it was fun. So I don't see a title here. Am I going blind? Okay, Jason, am I forgetting anything?
No.
Smart, there you are. No other announcements that I'm skipping by. Okay, so remember.
John Maxwell.
Oh yes, John Maxwell. He's coming to town on the 18th. This guy I've followed for years, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. This is something that I would really, he's coming to town. It's $89. Go see it. I've followed his books for probably 20, 25 years now. I'm excited he's coming to town. I'm going to be there. So today, I'm super, super excited. Yes?
Sorry, where is he speaking?
Draper somewhere.
It's a church in Draper.
Yeah.
South Mountain Community Church.
South Mountain Community Church. I'm excited. I'm going to be there. So today I'm super excited to have one of our great ones here, who last year, it was last year, right, you did this? Man, watching what he did, and I'm sure he's going to go into it a little bit, so impressed, and then to watch the journey that he's taken over, gosh, 10 years? Maybe a little bit longer to build what you've built? 13? Guys, this guy has really figured it out. Really understands where to take your business and how to leverage and create cash flow. This is one I wouldn't have missed. So with that being said, Bill Harvey, come on up.
Okay, so I really appreciate you guys being here. I know we're busy. We have a lot going on. Hopefully some of the things I share with you guys today will inspire you to take action in some aspect of your life. So for those of you that don't know, like Rick mentioned, August 1st of last year, I took my family on what was supposed to be a one-year RV trip around North America, and we saw some incredible things. So today, what I'm going to talk about, real briefly, is what we did, why we did that, and then the meat and potatoes of it all is how we did it financially, and that is through generating cash flow and multiple streams of income. So we're going to get to that at the end, but I kind of want to set the stage so you guys kind of get an idea of what it is that we did, why we did it, and then again, how we did it. So let's see, is this screen going to come on? So I'm kind of a risk taker, a little bit of a crazy thinker is what my wife would kind of say that I am. So I saw my kids growing up really fast. I've got 5 kids, and as you guys know, in this business, we kind of get consumed with work. I would go on vacations with them, I'd still be working. And so I wanted to do something with my family that I can kind of step back and focus on my family while the kids are young. And so originally I had the idea of taking my family to South America, living there for a year. My wife did not like that idea. So What we ended up deciding to do is we purchased a brand new Class A RV, and we purchased a tow vehicle, and we put a bike rack on the back with all of our bikes.
What was your total length?
75 feet.
Wow.
So this is about the size of a semi truck. So a couple things to know. I have never slept in a camper or RV before. I have never driven one, anything this size before. So I have a friend that he owned a couple motorhomes, and he said, "Do you want to take one of them out to just see if you like it?" I said no, because there's a chance I may not like it. So I wanted to fully commit to this. So we rented out our house so that there was no way that we could come back, and we took off. So we're going to the next picture. Just real quickly, kind of the route we took is we headed to the Oregon coast, and we went up north into Washington, Seattle. You know, we saw a lot of national parks. We went into Canada. Go to the next one. And we saw Banff, Lake Louise. You've probably seen this picture or similar pictures in a lot of magazines and things. Go to the next one. Very, very beautiful area, and it was amazing just to be able to focus and enjoy the time with my family. So just real quick, so after Canada, we came back down into the United States. You know, went to Mount Rushmore and basically all the cool sites in the United States. This is a picture in Boston, Massachusetts in October. We had no idea, but there, the RV parks, people decorate their RV for Halloween. And so my wife had packed some pirate costumes for a future Disney cruise that we were going on later on the trip, so we all dressed up as pirates, and the kids went trick-or-treating. So a lot of just new experiences that we were able to do as a family. Here's a picture of us in New York. Go ahead, next one. And then this is us on the Disney cruise, which was right after Thanksgiving. Go to the next one. And then after that, you know, when we were in Florida, we would just take flights to different countries because it's really cheap to fly to South America from Florida. This is us in Costa Rica during Christmas. And I will add that all of these trips that we did within the trip was paid for through my credit card points. So, you know, rental cars, hotels, flights, activities, you know, not food or stuff like that. So that's, you know, another thing that maybe we can talk about another day. But go to the next one. And then this is us. We spent 2 weeks in Ecuador. We rented a van and a driver and traveled around Ecuador. This is a really cool town called Otavalo. The next one. So my kids were able to really see different cultures and see how other people live. And one of the things that I really wanted to have them see firsthand is that their quality of life is not the same as everyone else's in the world. But with that, they can see that other people are still very, very happy, even though they don't have all the stuff that we have. Next one. Just another picture of my girls in Ecuador. This is a zip line that we did as a family, where we zip lined over this waterfall. Really great memories that the kids have. And this is a crazy swing that you swing out over this big cliff. And
How many points did that cost you?
well, Ecuador, they don't take credit for points. But this is a bridge jump. No one else wanted to do this except for me for some reason.
You jumped off a bridge.
But yeah, for $20. So my family was there to support me. So yeah, I think that's all. So hopefully you guys kind of get an idea of what those 10 months ended up looking like. And you know, I do want to point out it wasn't all fun and games. There were days where my wife wanted to go home. There were days where my kids would fight, just like at home, which I knew was something that was going to happen. But you know, what I wanted, I guess going back to the why, what I wanted to create is long-lasting memories that my kids will never forget. And another reason why I wanted to do something like this is, you know, from when I was a teenager, I've always dreamt about living a life and creating a life that I design on my terms. And I learned through real estate and real estate investing and generating cash flow, I could get there. And so taking a big jump and doing something crazy like this, where I'm stepping away from a great market in real estate, I'm stepping away from you know, a lot of the day-to-day things that we're involved in, just kind of proved a point to me that if we think and dream big, we can accomplish huge things. You know, I went on this journey expecting that I would wreck the RV, so I got the best insurance because I've never driven anything like this before. I expected that we'd end up in the emergency room with a kid, which luckily never happened. So I kind of expected the worst, knowing that it wasn't going to be easy, but it was going to be worth it and it was going to be awesome, and it was. So that's kind of the why. So now I want to get into the how. How much time do I
You
have?
got till 12:30. Go as long as you need.
Okay.
As long as they're still setting.
So before we get into the how, do you guys have any questions?
School for the kids.
Homeschool. My wife will never do it again. So, you know, we try to spend the 2 to 3 hours every day with the kids, really focus on math and reading, and then all the other stuff they would learn as we would travel around. We would go to museums, national parks, you know, science museums, history. They would learn American history, you know, at the sites in Boston and DC, stuff like that. So.
He said it was supposed to be a year. What was it actually? How long?
So we ended up coming home in 10 months because a house that I saw 13 years ago came up for sale. It was kind of our dream home, and we bought it.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Did you wreck the RV?
No, but I did hit a deer on the border of South Carolina and North Carolina, and so yeah.
Road stake.
But you know, I mean, we ended up driving the RV 18,000 miles, and then we drove our tow vehicle 16,000 miles. Plus, you know, all the flights to the 3 different countries that we visited. So, let's see. Any other questions on that before we jump into the cash flow part of it?
What did it cost you?
Okay, great question. So, when I did all the numbers originally, I figured it would cost me about $10,000 a month, and it ended up being about $8,000 a month.
Wow.
So, you know, keep in mind that all of the trips were pretty much, I mean, they weren't totally free, but pretty inexpensive. Except for that dang Disney cruise. They do not take any points or discounts. It's expensive.
What did you do with your RV when you flew up to those other countries?
So, remember how I hit the deer? So, we scheduled the service work to be done while we were on the trip, so that it could get done and then we don't have to pay for storage. And we did that we did that every time we left. We'd take the RV in to get warranty work done while we were gone, and then we'd come back, pick it up, and we'd be on our way. So, okay, any other questions? All right, well, I'm going to tell a quick story, share this with my team on Monday, but they got a chuckle out of it, so I'll share it again. So there was a guy in New York, rich businessman, and he had a really nice red Ferrari that he got paid for. And he needed this guy was from India, and he was going to go to India for 2 weeks. So he drove to a nearby bank close to the airport in New York City, and goes into the bank and he asked the banker for a loan on his Ferrari. He said, my Ferrari's paid for, I'm going to India for a couple weeks, I just need a loan for $5,000. So, for the bank, well, I guess one other thing is he said that they could even keep his Ferrari. And so the bank thought, this is a great loan, we get to keep the collateral, the loan to value is really, really low, so they said, absolutely. So while they're drafting the paperwork, he saw, one of the bank managers drive the car into the parking garage. And 2 weeks later, this guy returned from India, and he went to the bank to pay off the loan, which 2 weeks on a $5,000 loan is like, his payoff was $5,025. So the banker, pulled the car out, gave him his keys, and he said, we really enjoy doing business with you, but we just cannot figure out why you would get a loan on your car, a guy like you with so much money. And he said, where else in New York can you park your car in covered parking with security for $25 for 2 weeks? So those of you that have been to New York, we took our car in, and it was about $80 for the day. So it's this way of thinking that that I've tried to think outside the box and to think, how can I do things different? There's a quote that says, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Okay? And so I know our financial education in our country, in my opinion, is very, very skewed. Okay? They are teaching everyone to go to school, go to college, get into student loans so that you can get a safe, secure job with benefits. And for some reason, when I was in my early 20s, that just wasn't clicking to me. And so that's when I started reading, and I figured if I'm going to be going to school and paying all this money to get a job that pays me money, why don't I just learn about how money works? And so, that's what I did. I started reading books. The biggest book that had the biggest impact on me was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, who really started changing the way that I looked at things, on how, the difference between assets and liabilities. So going back into the how we were able to do this financially. It's interesting to note that even though I took 10 months off, I still made more money than the year before. I guess last year when I did my taxes, the income was higher than the year before, and I was only here for 7 months. And there's a reason why, and it's because when you get that snowball of cash flow going, it just kind of gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So do we have any markers? So I know a lot of people think it's great to have piles of cash, but what's better than piles of cash is a stream of cash, which comes in month after month after month. I want you guys to program that in your brain. I want to hear everyone say it month after month after month. Okay, how many of you guys have rental properties? Okay? Austin, how is it seeing those rent checks come in month after month after month?
It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
Someone's paying down the equity and money's coming in. It's good.
Is it a quick process?
No, you know, you don't get rich on $500 a month, 1 month, but you know, you get 10 properties and over time, that's how you go well.
So I'm assuming everyone in here is in the real estate business, right? So, you know, some of the things I want to say it to motivate you. But if you do not own a home or a home that brings you money every month, you need to get with it. Okay? Because this is the best product out there to help people build wealth and financial independence. So hopefully you can take the time to continue to learn about this and don't sit on the sidelines. I know people will say, well, the market's high, I want to wait till the market comes down. Okay, if you buy a home and your expenses are this and your income is this, where you make money, it does not matter if the value of that home goes down. In 2008, I had about 12 units, and I also had a couple flips. When the market crashed, the homes that I was flipping, hoping to sell on speculation, those hurt because those homes weren't putting money in my pocket. The rental properties just continued right along. You know, because when people are losing their home, they need to rent a home. So do not let fear get in the way of creating long-term wealth for you. Okay, because you don't want to wait until you're 10 years down the road where you just missed a decade because you didn't take action. Okay, do it now. At the end of the class, you guys can ask questions about maybe a situation, your situation, or a situation of a friend, and because I know everyone's financial situation isn't maybe on par to go out and buy a property, but there's other ways that you can be creative. Going back to the story with the Ferrari, think outside the box. Figure out a way to make it happen if maybe the typical bank loan is not going to happen. Okay? So, there's a lot of detail and stuff, and I'm sure a lot of questions and different scenarios that we can talk about, which I don't think we have time for everything. But the point that I want to drive home is, if you are not creating your financial situation in a way to where if you don't work, you don't make money, which most of our country is that way, why not change it and work to create multiple streams of income, okay? The thought that I tell myself is, I don't work for money, I work for freedom. Okay? It just helps me think different, why I do the things that I do. If you're thinking, I gotta work so I can pay bills, it's gonna put you in a negative mindset. If you're thinking, I gotta work and create different things so that I have financial freedom, so I can take off for a year and travel the world, I can donate $20,000 to a cause that you're passionate about, and you can do that through money that comes in month after month after month. I know some people may say, Phil, why are you sharing your secrets? Why are you what happens if everyone in this room gets out there and wants to go buy rental properties? Doesn't that create more competition for you? Well, the truth of the matter is, there's only 5% of the people in this room that will actually go do this, right? So the large majority of you guys will probably just think about it for 5-10 years. Don't be that person, okay? Take action. So I want to just pause here for a second and talk about cash flow rental properties. Any questions come to mind? What I want to hear is, what are the doubts, the negative thoughts that you guys have thought or are thinking about that is holding you back from jumping into buying rental properties?
So I have one, and I'm looking to acquire another. There's one I didn't pull the trigger on quick enough. And my reason was it'd take a 20% down payment. And I'd much rather go find one that I could rehab and refinance and take up less of my capital. Did you ever drop 20% for a property, or would you always try and minimize that?
Yeah, I do try to minimize that as best I can. So with that question, let me go into a couple different strategies here. Okay, how many of you have heard of the BRRRR technique? Okay, this is a great way to avoid the 20% down. Okay, what this stands for is buy a property, rehab the property, rent the property, refinance the property, and then repeat. Do it again on another property. So let me illustrate how this works. So a month ago, I bought a 2-unit property in Ogden. This home, it was an MLS deal, it came on the market. I jumped on it. The list price was $199.9, and I bought it for $200,000. I paid them more than what they wanted. So the reason why I just wanted them to see that, look, I want this place, I don't want to play games, boom, here's an offer. How I finance this, because I'm planning on doing this strategy right here. And this is a home that was in an estate. I think they've had it as a rental property for 20 years. People died, they just don't want to deal with it anymore. Each unit is 3 bedrooms. So 3-1. And each unit should rent for about $900 each. So $1,800 total. Okay, so right now I've had a little bit of a challenge getting some squatters out of there. So it's taken me a little bit of time to get people in there to kind of rehab it, but interesting story. So my property manager goes over to change the keys, change the locks, and he's walking through the home to check it out, and a lady comes up to him, and she says, "Who are you?" And he says, "I'm Thomas with Boardwalk Property Management. Who are you?" She says, "My husband just bought this house." And so he started asking questions. I mean, he's seen this before, and she just had all the right answers. So he really thought that he was in the wrong house. So he leaves, he calls me back, he shoots me a picture of the home, and he says, "Is this the house that you bought?" And I said, "That's the house that I think I bought." And so, so I go over to the house and talk to the lady, and again, she had all these answers. So I call Ogden City Police, and I go grab a sandwich, sit there in front of the house, and I see a lot of just like transients and homeless people coming in and out. So the police show up, and he comes and talks to me. I show him my closing documents on my phone, and so he goes into the house, and I can kind of hear their conversation, and she's telling him that her husband just bought this house, and anyway, she comes out, and she shakes my hand and introduces herself, and you know, she's like, "Yeah, we closed last Friday. I paid $219," and the officer's like, "How much did you pay?" I'm like, 200. He's like, oh, you got a better deal. So anyway, she's like, I'm gonna get the closing documents. He's like, I'm gonna give you 5 minutes to show me the closing documents. If not, you guys are gonna have to move out. And she just had a great story. The officer knew her. She's kind of been, you know, in kind of that scene a lot, but he had to kind of respect what she was saying until she can prove that she actually owned the house. So, you know, once we got everyone out, I sent my flooring guys in because I want to put in some luxury vinyl plank, which is a great floor for rental properties because it's kind of indestructible. So the flooring guys show up, and there's another guy living in the house.
Oh my God.
So the carpet giant guy calls me, and he's like, yeah, this guy doesn't, you know, he doesn't want to work here. He's too scared. You know, Ogden City shows up. You know, they arrest this guy, and you know, finally, I think we have the home secure enough where no one's living in there. But you know, I share this story because this is the crap that you deal with. You know, it's just part of the game. So I know a lot of people don't like to deal with stuff like that. I look at it as not as a problem, but as a challenge to learn. And so going back to this example, what we should be done. So we bought it. We are rehabbing it, and then we are also in the process of renting it. Just got a couple applications this week that we're screening the tenants, make sure that they're good. And then once we have leases signed, I am going to refinance this property, and the value should be $250 to $260. So, you know, I will get a loan at 80% LTV. So I will end up with about $10,000 in repair costs. This is just paint, new flooring, new light fixtures. The home wasn't really in that bad of shape. So I will be into this home almost no money down. And then, so cash flow wise, you know, you can kind of do the math. If you don't have any money into it and you're making $400 to $500 a month, what is your return on that? Yeah. So that's one of the best ways to do that.
So did you buy it with cash or did you use a hard money loan?
Yes, on this one I used a hard money loan.
And was your hard money for a fraction or for more, or was it for like 210?
The loan amount was $200,000.
Okay. So the bank, all they're gonna refinance is 200.
Yes, it'll be a rate and term refinance.
So basically a 10% down payment for the, or 10,000.
Well, 5%, you know.
Yeah, 5%, 10,000.
Yeah, so that's how you can get into something with a little bit less money down. But it takes a lot more work.
That's way cheap.
So a couple, trying to think, a lot of different loan products change, but one thing that a lot of people don't know is you can actually purchase a home with a home equity line of credit, and instead of just getting traditional finance. Sorry, Phil, but
You're right.
So, you know, the benefits of that is your closing costs are a lot less. The downside is you don't have a fixed rate. Some banks will do a temporary fixed rate, you know, 5%, something like that, 6%. And then another way to pay down your loans faster, this I could teach a whole nother class on, but it's using a home equity line of credit as your checking account. And so all of your money goes into that account, which counts as your payment towards that loan, and then your bills come out of that account. And I don't know how many of you guys were, I taught a class on that maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
I've heard of
So a few of you guys might have been there. But the reason why mathematically that works so well is because on a home equity line of credit, those loans are simple interest, where on a mortgage, those loans are amortized. So you're paying a lot of the interest up front, and then more of the principal towards the later years of the loan. So what I do to generate more cash flow is all of my rental income goes into my HELOCs, which pays down the balance, and then my bills come out of that. So if you do the math, usually you can pay off a home in 5 to 7, 8 years versus 15 or 30 years. But that strategy, you know, a lot of these strategies, people have got to be very disciplined financially, or some of this stuff will just put you in loads of debt.
I have 2 questions. Where do you do your HELOC? Like, because I don't know if every bank does it that way. So where do you go to?
So I have 4 HELOCs with Zions, 1 with America First, and then 2 with Utah Community Credit Union. So, and again, their products kind of change, but one thing I will throw out, any of you guys that own your own home, and now is a great time to do this because values are up. Everyone should have a home equity line of credit on their house. As long as you're disciplined. If you feel like you're gonna go buy liabilities, you know, boats, expensive trips, and you're gonna use that money to do that, don't do it. Just keep keep learning financial education so that you can get to that point so that you don't incur a lot of debt.
So you use a hard money loan on this one. Is there a disadvantage of just using your HELOC for that temporary cash before you refi?
No, not at all, and that's a better way to do it.
Okay.
So, and I would do that, but I've got a lot of money moving around, I didn't have it available at the time. So,
Is that also known as velocity banking?
yeah.
So with this strategy, and I am not at your level at all, but with the BRRRR strategy, what I'm finding is my cash flow would be maybe $500-600 a month, and then when I go to refinance the property, it may be negative cash flow. And so, are you still positive cash flow on this after the refinance?
I should be, yeah, I mean, I'm able to get a 4% loan right now on an investment property, it might be 4 1/4. You know, taxes in Ogden are a little bit lower, and so there should be enough cash flow there.
How much are you paying out on your hard money interest?
That's kind of confidential, but I'll just say the going rate is between 12 and 15%. I have a couple people that just like to lend me money, so.
So when you bought the home for $200,000, did you buy it low or with built-in equity, or was that just the going market?
Yes, so I just sold a client the month before two duplexes in Ogden that will get about the same rents, and they paid $250.
Okay.
So you know, this strategy only works if you're buying a home at a discount. If you go and buy a home at retail price and then fix it up, it doesn't work. This is a home that needs some rehab, or you're getting it, you know, highly discounted.
So how many rental properties do you have right now?
How many doors?
Doors, yeah.
So I've got a few with partners on them, but altogether it's 67 units. Wow. So it's good.
Do you have a certain number that you have to cash flow on each door for it to make sense to you?
I don't, and the reason why is if I have very little money in it, and I'm cash flowing $200 or $300, I'm okay with that. But you know, I shoot for bigger margins. So what I do is I want to make sure my money is making at least 15%. So if you guys want to go over how to calculate a cash on cash return, would that be helpful, or
Yeah.
or you guys?
So I'm guessing you don't care about the cap rate.
No, not as much. I mean, that's a reflection of what it is that you're buying, but you know, I look at it, is this home gonna help me achieve what I wanna achieve? You know, that's additional cash flow, and is it gonna be a good long-term property? You have an eraser?
You do at least 15% cash on cash return, is that what you're saying? For it to make sense, the whole deal?
Yeah.
Okay.
And, you know, 3-4 years ago, my number that I was shooting for was 20%.
Wow.
But, you know, because of market appreciation, those deals are pretty hard. I will throw out this, there are other markets that give you a lot better cash flow. I know Justin and Austin have some properties in Mississippi, and the cash flow, your cash on cash return is a lot better. But those are not appreciating markets. Great cash flow, which a lot of investors, that's all they want, right? If they have living expenses of $10,000 and they can make $15,000 off of just rental properties that aren't really ever going to appreciate much, there's nothing wrong with that. So, you know, that's I guess a whole nother discussion. But yeah.
What percentage do you pay your property managers? Average.
So I started a property management company, and then I sold it to a business partner, and so he gave me a little bit better deal. But I mean, the going rate is 8 to 10%. I probably average about 6 to 7%.
And let me ask you another question. What's your exit strategy?
That's a great question. So my exit strategy is to never exit. So what I'm wanting to create, and I'll tell you a story of why I'm thinking this way. So I was at the gym talking to this guy, and he was telling me how he went in some guy's home here in Salt Lake, you know, just a huge house, and this guy had just a huge room of all these exotic animals that this guy went and hunted in Africa. And he knew that cost a lot of money to go buy tags, you know, for these animals. I know some people may not be for hunting animals in Africa, but you know, to illustrate the story, he asked the guy, "So what do you do?" And the guy said, "I'm a 3rd generation owner of 4,000 rental properties." Wow. So if you do the math on that, if say the average rental property is $1,000 a month, 1,000 times 4,000 is what, 4 million? 4 million? 4 million a month? Say it, month after month after month. So when I heard that story, I thought, yeah, why do I need to sell? Because when you sell, you have a lot of costs. There's taxes, there's realtor fees, you know, title fees. And so if the money is putting money in your pocket every month, then, you know, my thought is, why don't I just keep these? And then my kids have, you know, income, and then they can continue to build upon that. So the thought is, why sell the goose that's giving you the golden egg month after month after month, right?
Real quick, I know of a gentleman who is 89 years old. He doesn't have family. His wife passed away and he has no children. He owns 10 properties, rental properties. He said he wants to sell it or get rid of it, but he doesn't want to pay the capital gains. I want to know, how can I help him?
This is how
Outside the box.
Outside the box.
That's so funny. Okay. Here's a thought that's coming to my mind. Is what if you convinced him to sell them to you on a seller finance so that he doesn't have to pay all the capital gains up front? Yeah. And then you have 10 properties.
I love that idea. Someone was telling me about buying the notes. Is that the same thing, or I don't understand about buying notes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming if he's that old, he probably hasn't paid for. Maybe not.
I love it. Okay,
But you know, then that way he's not paying capital gains on all of that money all at once. So
As an example, this one you've shown us, at what point on a given property would you consider, after looking at the rehab value, just flipping it and moving on to maybe something better, or do you ever do that?
yeah, you know, I haven't. The only time I've sold rental properties was in 2008-9 when the market had crashed and I wasn't making a lot of money, and so I had to sell off a couple properties just to stay alive, you know, to keep going on. But you know, because I figure if you can sell a property, I mean, not that it's a bad strategy to maybe do a 1031 exchange and to move up to a bigger property. That's one way to avoid paying tax on your investment properties is a 1031 exchange. I just figured, why not just figure out a way to just buy the new property without selling the old property and just have more properties. So, yeah, another question.
You have flipped single families though, right? So you'll hold a duplex, but you always hold a single family.
I only have a couple of single family homes in my portfolio, but you know, most of those I buy them as flips. So, I mean, if they cash flow, then you know, look at keeping it.
Okay.
As long as you're getting that 15%.
Yeah.
But you do flip a number of
Do I flip?
homes.
Yeah. Yeah. So the reason why I flip homes is just to build more capital to move that into more cash flow producing properties. The reason why I help people, you know, represent them on the buying and selling side is to generate more capital, to have more money to invest into cash flow producing properties. It's just, you know, if you change yourself to think different, the reason why you're working is to build financial freedom and not to buy stuff, then you will get ahead a lot further financially.
Do you find any specific area in Utah to have better cash flow with your investments?
Ogden is typically better. Yeah, I mean, you're dealing with sometimes a little bit lower quality of tenant, but the cash flow is usually better, and it used to be really good. Just like 3 years ago, I bought a property for $125,000, and I'm getting $3,700 a month in rent.
Wow.
So
How do you do with the rehabs? Do you have your own people?
yeah, I do. I mean, I do some of it, unfortunately. Just like last night, I was up at this Ogden property because I wanted to see how everything's coming, and while I was there, I was switching out some light fixtures and stuff just to try to get things ahead. But I'd like to not do any of that. But let's see. You've had your hand up. Sorry.
Do you have any downloads in your portfolio?
So I've got something similar to a townhome. They're like twin homes. There's seven of them total. I did have so I try to stay away from HOA fees just because it's something that you can never pay off. But on the other hand, if you find a good property that does have an HOA that includes a lot of the utilities, that takes care of the yard, sometimes it's a good thing. You know, just because you know it's going to be kept up well, and you know, the HOA kind of covers some of the expenses with that HOA fee. But yeah.
Do you have any horror stories about renters or trying to get them out, or tearing holes in the wall, tearing the place up?
Sure. I mean, I just expect that's just part of it, you know. I had one guy in a property that and his wife had gone through a divorce, and she didn't hear from him for a few days, and she went over and he was dead in the apartment. I mean, I haven't really had any where they just absolutely trashed the place, but I mean, it could happen. It's all part of it, but that's why you want to do a really good job at screening people, making sure that they have good rental history, you know, employment. I mean, you guys have heard of what happened to Dave Stocco,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
I mean, so those of you that haven't heard, this happened when you're gone, and I don't know the complete story, but he stopped by one of his rental properties because the guy was late on his rent, and his family didn't hear from him for a few hours, and the officers, you know, searched his unit and found him dead in his unit. So that is kind of the reason why I pay a property manager, you know. But that's probably the worst of the worst.
I don't know, you probably know this, but it's often cheaper to pay someone to move for a tenant in distress. With like $200 goes a long way. $100 bill, a $100 bill the next day when they're out. Or you know, if you have to go 500, it's cheaper than
Yeah.
I'm off that here.
Yeah.
I've used that many times.
So what he's saying is a tenant that can't pay, you go to him and you say, hey, if you guys can be out in 24 hours or 48 hours, I'll give you $100. You know, that alone might be enough motivation for them because they know they got to leave anyway. So why not just leave sooner rather than later, and then it saves them money in the long run. Yeah, that's a great suggestion.
What was your barrier to entry? Like, where did you get started at? Did you just leverage your first home and?
Yeah, so when I was 22, I was engaged to be married, and I didn't want to do the typical go rent an apartment or live in a family member's basement. So I started looking for homes, and I, you know, didn't have a great job. I mean, I was delivering packages for Airborne Express, and luckily my wife that I was marrying had saved up $5,000 or $6,000, so I had enough for a down payment. So we bought a home in South Jordan, in Glenmore Village, and I made the basement so that we could rent it out, and our tenants paid for the mortgage, and I figured, hey, this actually works really well. So I ended up buying another property, and then it kind of just grew from there. So, you know, the first home that I got in was a home that was owner occupied with the basement apartment, which I think is a great way to get started. You know, because you got a home that's kind of generating income, covering a lot of the expenses, and then after maybe 6 months or a year, you might be able to get into that next property. And when we moved out, I wanted to keep it because I was getting maybe $900 for the basement at the time and $1,200 for the main floor, and our payment was like $1,000. But you know, my wife just didn't want to have a duplex in a residential neighborhood, so we ended up selling that one. But yeah, just
So you know kind of a little bit about my situation, but I've got rental properties, I make the money, my wife doesn't make any money, she stays at home. What is a creative way that I could find a way to start helping her get rental properties without taking from my income?
great question. So one of the things that I've done is if you're an agent, you are running a business, correct?
Yep.
So you should have a business entity that your business expenses and your income and expenses come out of that. So within my business entity, I'm the president of my company, and my wife is a managing member. So for many years, I would pay her a salary, and so she was able to buy homes also. Because tell me, Phil, if this is still accurate, but is it 10 loans per individual? Still the same. So that is the reason why we did that. I just figured, you know, if we're both making money, I can buy 10 homes, she can buy 10 homes. So, you know, that's how you solve that problem, is start paying your wife. You're gonna have to pay a little bit in taxes, you know, with her income. but then on the upside, you're able to also get more properties, you know, in her name. So how many of you have not set up a business entity for your business? Okay, so I recommend doing that. You know, so the tax code in our country, I've never read it, right? But I hear a lot about it. So it is written for economic growth and you know, people that are earning a W-2 wage, unfortunately, they are paying a higher percentage in taxes. Amazon, they paid zero, what? They say they paid zero in taxes, billion-dollar company, kind of crazy. So if you do things right, and run your business and the entities that, you know, that you set up for your businesses, it will save you money on taxes. And then another thing with that is, so, and this will kind of get into the credit card thing just a little bit, which helps your cash flow because, as you know, when you make a charge on your credit card, you're not billed for that for maybe 30, 45 days later. And so all of my expenses that I can pay all go on a credit card. It used to not be that way because I used to have a lot of debt. I didn't have the financial discipline to do that because I couldn't keep up with making the payments with what I was spending. So I had to stop using credit cards for a little bit to retrain my habits. But if you are in a situation where you consistently pay your credit card bills off without paying interest, and you want to like travel and maybe for those of you that are more interested in cash back, put everything you can on a credit card because then your travel expense doesn't even exist. It's kind of just paid for by Chase Bank or Bank of America or Capital One.
But you pay a premium for that each time you make a charge.
On some things. Most things they don't charge a premium.
Can you pay your mortgage on it?
No.
Yes.
I know that.
How do you do that?
It's kind of a little bit of a hassle, but what you do. So you buy, and it'll cost you a little bit of money, but you buy Visa gift cards, the highest amount that they will sell. And then you take those Visa gift cards into Walmart, you convert those into a money order, and then you can either just put the money order in your account or just pay your credit card with the money order. So that's kind of a roundabout way how to do it. So, hassle, I don't do it. I actually know someone that does do it, but you know, you're gonna have to pay the $5.95 on a Visa gift card and then like $2 to do the money order. But you know, that's how you do it. So.
Have you gone after private money before?
Like hard money loans?
Well, like actual, just like private money.
Like raising money?
Is it the same? Well,
Kind of the same
because
thing.
I heard hard money was like still through an institution versus.
No, all of my hard money loans are just individuals that I know.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Do you syndicate any of your properties?
Tax. What
Do
do you mean by
you
that?
syndicate? Do you raise funds to pay for them?
No. Yeah, if I were to do bigger, more expensive,
Apartment complex?
yeah, I would do that. But you know, I'd like to maybe get into that, but it's just, you know, what I've been doing works really well, and so I kind of just stuck with it. So, yeah, Mike.
Besides Rich Dad, Poor Dad, what are some other books that helped you kind of build your mindset around money?
So there's a podcast that I've really been listening to a lot. It's called Morris and Best.
What?
Morris and Best. So it's put on by a guy by the name of Clayton Morris, who used to be a TV anchor on Fox News. And he had a great job and just decided to quit so that he can teach financial education through cash flow producing rental properties. So he has a company that he's created, and I mean his podcast will give you so much value, but you know, just to kind of give a plug for him for all the education he's helped me with is, you know, he has a company that he set up where they go into certain markets like Kansas City and Indianapolis, and they have turnkey properties that you can buy from them that are between $50,000 and $80,000 that are remodeled and that generate, you know, $900 to $1,200 a month. So that's kind of his bread and butter is the C neighborhoods. In real estate, you have kind of the A neighborhoods, the B neighborhoods, and the C neighborhoods, and then some other cities might have like a D neighborhood. I don't think we really have that here in Utah, but I found that the B and C neighborhoods are the best, just consistent types of homes because, you know, those are the more affordable housing types of properties. There's a huge demand for those versus trying to rent, you know, an $800,000 home or $1 million home. It's just very, very consistent to stick with, you know, properties that rent out between $800 to maybe $1,800 in our market right here. Every market's gonna be a little bit different.
Do you set up different entities for each property? Or?
So what I have is I've got an entity called Radical Properties LLC, and then each property is a series LLC of that. Okay. So each one kind of has its own protection. And hopefully, I guess we'll find out how to theory.
Can you teach us how to do cash on cash returns?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cash on cash return. Now I gotta like think about it. Okay, so you take your income, total income. And you have your expenses. Okay, so say your income, let's just say it is $1,200 you're getting in rent. Okay, over here on your expenses, if you have a property manager, you're going to have that expense. Your holding costs, which is your loan, you know, whether it's a mortgage or your interest on your HELOC, whatever it is, that's your holding cost. Okay, and then any you know, gas, like maybe water. I always try to have the tenants be responsible for their utilities because I found when they aren't responsible, they don't care, you know, how much water they're using or how much power they're using. But sometimes cities kind of, you can't put the water bill in the tenant's name, so sometimes it just has to be in your name. So this is, you know, water, etc. And, you know, if your taxes aren't included here, you want to include those, and then insurance. Okay, so say all of these expenses, just for math purposes, is $900. So you take your income of $1,200, subtract 900. So that should leave you $300 a month cash flow. Okay, so let's say you bought this home for
If you have a client, if you have a property with an HOA, do you include that in
Yes.
your
Yeah, good
utilities for
question.
your
Yeah.
renters?
So if you have a property with a HOA, what I try to do is add that to the rent if the HOA covers water, sewer, and garbage because the tenants are using that. So that's gonna kind of cancel out because that's gonna be income, but then it's an expense. So let's see, what do you guys want to use on your down payment on 150? 20%?
20%, so that'd be 30,000.
Okay.
And
So-
then your loan closing costs are gonna be about $4,000.
Let's say we've got the seller to pay those.
Okay.
Okay, just to keep it simple, but yes, that would be another expense, which would raise your out-of-pocket expense here. So this part's pretty basic. So to find the cash-on-cash return, you times this by 12, which is 3,600, and then you divide this number by this number. I'm not that good at math to do that one.
It's gonna be
12.
12%.
So that's how you do it. So you take your cash flow, annualize it, and then take that number and divide that number by your upfront out-of-pocket expense. So who would do this deal? Okay, yeah, good deal. Solid.
Do you have a different way of covering your repairs on the homes?
So
or do you add them in
let's
there?
use this one for an example. Say you've got 10,000 in repairs when you buy this home. So just take this number and add 10, which is 40. So it's gonna make your cash on cash return probably like 9, something like that. So not as good, but still better than the alternative checking account.
Do you put a certain amount away for like maybe a roof down the road or big repairs like that, capital expenses?
I used to. I don't anymore, just because I just know stuff's gonna happen, and I have enough properties that can kind of just help out the property when.
But when you were starting, you did add that into your expenses.
What was the amount that you did for reserves for when you first started?
I would do two months worth of cash flow. Just it sometimes would cover it, sometimes it wouldn't, but just to kind of have a little kind of awesome.
What's your total cash flow right now in your 67 properties?
So the total rents that come in are over 40,000 a month. Wow. And then the cash flow is just over 20. So
And that's how you're able to go and spend $8,000 to $10,000 a month on a trip and still make money while you're gone because you're rentals.
Yeah, and I mean, that is the American dream, right?
How do you find your properties?
MLS and wholesalers. So I haven't really been buying a ton the last 18 months. I picked up this duplex, and then I've got a property in Grantsville that has an acre. So it's 7 units with another acre behind that I'm working with the city to build 8 more units.
How's the city treating you?
They're awful.
So guys, we get really deep in this. We got another meeting starting in a few minutes. Let's give Phil a thank you.
So for those of you that want to kind of up your game on getting free travel, put your name and email address on here, and I will send you a link. There's a really good credit card that I will send you a link of, and then you guys will get a bunch of bonus points. It gives me a few bonus points. Then, like, you guys should not be paying with your expenses. You should not be really paying a whole lot on travel. Just let the credit card companies do it for you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.